This is a C1 level news, so I will be talking English during the reading and I will explain in the English language. I will talk around C1 level. I won't talk at C2 level. I will talk around C1 level. All right. All right, let's start. Microplastics. While many of us are aware of the environmental damage done by plastic, fewer people know about the threat from the ubiquity of microplastics. While many of us aware. So while here it's like but, right? Or even though many of us aware, even if many of us aware, something like that. So while can be used like that. While many of us are aware of the environmental damage done by plastic, fewer people know about the threat from the ubiquity of microplastics. Ubiquity means something is everywhere. Right? You can see it everywhere. You can see it wherever you look. It's like dust, for example. Dust is ubiquitous. I think I would use a different word, but if something is everywhere, it's you can use this word. Scientists first found them in our bodies more than a decade ago. So this is easily understandable, I think. Decade means 10 years. Sorry. Century means 100 years. Millennium or millennia means 1000 years. Worryingly, researchers have now found them in the human heart. I think this is also an easy sentence. So researcher, you should know this by now. And yeah, okay, let's continue. Scientists at the Beijing Anzhen Hospital in China collected cardiac tissue samples from 15 patients undergoing heart surgery. Okay, this is a bit more difficult. Scientists at the Beijing Anzhen Hospital in China collected cardiac tissue. Cardiac tissue means heart tissue. You can also remember this from cardio, for example, right? Cardio exercise. Cardio exercise, it actually means that those exercises like walking, running, jogging, jumping rope, etc., they are good for the heart, right? They are actually cardiovascular exercises, which means they are good for our hearts, and vascular means for our veins, blood veins, right? So they are those type of exercises are good for our hearts and veins. And cardiac also means heart, and tissue means how do I explain this in English? When you take a little bit of something from an organ, from some other place in the body, that's you are taking a tissue from the organ, all right? So taking a little piece, it has that meaning. So they collected cardiac tissue samples from 15 patients undergoing heart surgery. Patient, I mentioned this in a previous video in B2 level, but it means the sick people, the people with the illnesses, right? So it doesn't mean, okay, that's it. I'm not going to explain more. 15 patients undergoing heart surgery. Undergo something here, you should be able to understand the meaning from the sentence. So I'm not going to explain. Let's continue. After analyzing the samples, they discovered tiny pieces of plastic from a multitude of sources. Sample, it means if something is taken to be examined as an example, let's say. It's not exactly example, but similar to example. Okay. Example is actually not a very good explanation for sample. But sample is when you want to test something. You want to test the health of a person's liver, for example. And you take a piece of that liver as a sample. That's what a sample is. And then you research that sample, and then through that sample, you decide how healthy their livers are, or how healthy their hearts are in this case. Okay, after analyzing the samples they took from the hearts, they discovered tiny pieces of plastic from a multitude of sources. Multitude of sources. Here this is a bit more difficult. Multitude, it means many. From many different so we can understand multitude here from many different sources. So those tiny pieces of plastic were from many different sources. They included a plastic commonly used as a shatter-proof alternative to glass, a polythene widely used in clothing and food containers, and a polyvinyl chloride used in construction. So commonly used, its meaning is again obvious, but maybe you're not using it much. So this is something that you can also use in your sentences. Commonly used. All right, this is a good phrase. Shatterproof. Shatter means something exploded, cracked, destroyed. Right. For example, if when glass, for example, breaks and it's completely destroyed, right? For example, it's not like one piece of the glass broke, but it's completely destroyed. For example, we could say the glass shattered. It's completely destroyed, right? The window shattered. And shatterproof means it won't shatter. It won't shatter, right? So here it's talking about a plastic used as a shatterproof alternative to glass because plastic will not shatter. I think that's what it means. A polythene widely used in clothing and food containers. I don't know about this thing, but it's obviously also a plastic. And the polyvinyl chloride used in construction. Again, obviously also a plastic. By the way, this is a very serious issue right now. I heard, I haven't done serious research on this, but I heard that in oceans, in seas, there's also a lot of microplastics and other waste, which is also an issue because those things go into fish and then we eat those fish. Again, it's a problem, but I'm not saying don't eat fish. I eat fish as well. We can't avoid everything really, but yeah, it's a cause of concern. I also heard that I'm going to continue, by the way, but I heard, for example, something you can pay attention to, for example, that instead of drinking your water from plastic, so for example, drinking from plastic bottles, if you drink your water from glass containers, it's much better. So try to buy maybe a glass bottle for your water, or try to avoid plastic containers for drinks, especially as much as you can. It's something you can do. Okay, let's continue. The scientists reported finding tens to thousands of individual tens to thousands. Yeah, okay. Tens to thousands of individual microplastic pieces in most tissue samples. So here, what it means is in some tissues it's tens of microplastic pieces. In some tissues it's thousands of microplastic pieces in some tissue samples. Sorry. So it changes from place to place in your body. Let's continue. Chemicals from, I think you should know individual, but if you don't know this, you can. Individuals means it's a separate thing, right? So for example, one individual means one thing is an individual, one person is an individual, right? Two people are a collective, one person is an individual. Chemicals from microplastics are released into the body, potentially leading to allergic reactions, cancer, cell death, and chronic inflammation, among other complications. Released, it means let out. Let out. So chemicals from microplastics are let out into the body, potentially leading to allergic reactions. You should know this. Cancer, again, you should know this. Cell death. Cell, again, you should know this, but cell, it means it is the smallest living thing or smallest constituent, let's say, living constituent in our bodies. Cells Inside the cells, there are mitochondria, there are our DNAs, those are all inside the cells. So that's the cell, right? You should understand by now. So what do these plastics lead again? Allergic reactions, cancer, cell death, chronic inflammation. Chronic means ongoing. So it's not like something harmed you for once and then caused some harm and then it was gone. That's actually less of an issue if the harm is not very, very big. But chronic inflammation, it means they keep harming you. Your body can fight, but if something keeps harming you and harming you, you will have a lot of sicknesses and illnesses down the line, along the way. So later in your life. Inflammation, it means again, you should look this up from the dictionary. It's difficult to explain in English terms to someone who doesn't know. I'm not a medical expert, but it's a harm again done to your body by the microplastics, and it is important. Among other complications. So these are only some of the complications, right? Scientists reckon that the average person consumes around 5 grams of microplastics a week, or 52,000 particles a year. Scientists reckon, it means calculate, think, guess, something like that. So they think, the average person consumes around 5. Okay, yeah. The remaining part you should be able to understand. Particle means a very small constituent of something, of an object. So maybe similar to dust, you can think. It's very small. It's a very small constituent. Constituent means part, by the way. Microplastics are so prevalent that they make up 39% of dust particles in our homes. Okay, this is interesting. Prevalent means common. They are everywhere, right? We can see them everywhere. This is similar to this one, ubiquity, prevalent. So ubiquity means something is everywhere. Prevalent again means something is dominant, right? You can see that virtually anywhere you look. Microplastics are so prevalent that they make up 39%. So yeah, so 39% of the dust you see around you, it says that it's actually microplastics. Of course, this will change from place to place, right? It can't be 39% in any place in the world. That's nonsense, but it's still interesting. Scientists say these tiny shards are near impossible to remove from the body. Tiny shard. Shard means, tiny means very, very small, and shard means something is not round without edges, but there's it's like a knife, right? Imagine a triangle. So there's a point that is sharp. That's a shard. So these tiny shards are near impossible to remove from the body. By the way, I talked a little fast in the previous sentence. I'm trying not to use very, very difficult words, but I'm talking pretty fast. Comment below after watching the video. Comment below, because this is the first video. This is the first advanced news video. Comment below and tell me if I'm talking too fast, if I'm talking too slow, if I'm talking too difficult. Comment below, and so that I can get your feedback and then adjust my speaking level and speed. They say, okay, so what happened last? Scientists say these things are very difficult to remove, near impossible to remove from the body. They say it is becoming critical to limit the amount of plastic we breathe in, ingest, swallow, or absorb. So limit the amount, it's critical. So breathe in, again, so there is microplastics, there are microplastics in the air. So we may be breathing in microplastics, so that's a bit critical. For this, so you have to limit this, and how can you limit this, right? You may be asking, well, I can't stop breathing, right? That's not really an option. So what you can do is try to breathe more from your mouth, if possible. It's not from your mouth, sorry, from your nose, through your nose. Okay? Our noses has a much better filter than our mouths. So if you breathe through your nose, I haven't done any research on this, if you will take in less microplastics, but I know our noses are much better filters, so it will probably help. And then limit the amount you ingest. Ingest, it means you eat, right? And you digest, basically. That has a similar meaning. And how can you limit this? You can limit this by eating less foods, less processed foods, more natural foods, right? Whole foods. And also try to eat less and drink less from plastic containers. Like, for example, try not to drink your water from a plastic bottle, if possible. Swallow or absorb. And yeah, that's it. All right. Again, if you have any feedbacks on my English level, you can comment down below if you're on YouTube, and I will adjust my speaking levels according to your comments. And even if I've finished doing these videos, still comment, give me some feedback, and I will think about them and consider them in my future videos. Alright, we are going to continue from the next video. Bye bye.